Oh, that was good. I didn't see that coming.
Me either.
That's how we get there in the first place.
Some.
Who is it? The Texans? Is that who they play?
Yes, Maddie, that's who they play. Start the show, Tucker.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our tremendous partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. Wednesdays are normally Matter Days. They're not Matter Days today. This is just a regular
still are.
old Tuck. I don't know. We don't have it. Tuck doesn't have
That's your fault. That's your fault for not bringing your mat to this game. That's on you. I'm here. I brought it. Matty Hamilton isn't here today. He's a little under the weather. Hopefully he will be with me in the near future for 21 questions if he is feeling better. But he's okay, guys. Don't worry. Hamilton is doing well. He is just, not able to make the show today, and that's all right. We will carry the torch on this game preview where the Chiefs are going up against the Houston Texans.
The Houston Texans are confirmed the team the Kansas City Chiefs will be playing. I got to pause this thing real quick, Maddie, though. You just made sure everyone knew that Matt Hamilton was doing okay. And that's what I used to do for Craig Stout all the time. When
used to. Do you no longer care if he's okay? Do you no longer want to let people know that he's all right? Is he just done? Wait, you used the word used to. Is he okay?
I just don't open the show with it. In 6 months. We haven't done that, so that's all. But I'm glad to hear Matt Hamilton's doing well. That is good to know. And yes, it is the Houston Texans. The Kansas City Chiefs will be playing on Saturday. This is the game preview edition. It is it's our normal Wednesday. The Chiefs play on a Saturday. They're playing a day early, and this is quite the game, man. They're 3 games away from the regular season being away or being over. They've got 2 wins away from securing the 1 seed. And I mean, that's if the Bills win out, which kind of feels like, it's 2 games against the Patriots and the Jets, so they're probably winning out. So 2 wins will secure the 1 seed for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that kind of brings the biggest storyline of this game on the offensive side of the ball and in the game in general. The Chiefs are pushing for that, 1 seed, and they very clearly are, because Patrick Mahomes has been a full participant in the 2 practices that this team has had this week. Now, granted, yesterday was not much of a practice, especially this time of year. You're not getting all kinds of you're not getting, a ton of activity yesterday. But today was probably one of their bigger practices, if not the biggest practice of the week. Patrick Mahomes is a full participant. I'll just start it off with this, Maddie. How do you feel about Patrick Mahomes giving this thing a go?
How do I? Yeah, of course. Of course he's going to. We kind of went down this rabbit hole a little bit. Earlier this week, where it's hey, he might play, he might not play. Come on. If he can go out there, if he can functionally move, he's going to play. There's various reasons to go through it, but here it is at the end of the day. If Patrick Mahomes feels comfortable playing on his ankle, he is going to go out there and he is going to play. He is going to give it his all, not just for him, but look at how this team's operating right now. They're having veterans who are probably towards the back half of their career, maybe the back 9 of their career here. And they're playing 90% of the snaps. This team is trying to get this 1 seed locked up. They're trying to get that home field advantage. More importantly, they're trying to get that playoff bye, and in the process, hopefully not have to play every single week this year. So if Mahomes can play, I think they're going to do everything they can from an organizational standpoint to make sure they put their best foot forward in terms of trying to win the game. I don't think it's any question in terms of should there be gamesmanship of sitting him or not sitting him if he feels good to play. If he's medically cleared and he says he's good, he's going to go out there and play. I don't think there's anything about trying to save him or anything like that. They are trying to get that back-to-back weeks off, I do believe, is kind of their big goal right now.
Well, and if you don't push, you're in a really weird spot where it's going to be kind of a challenge to, it'll be kind of a challenge to get any rest before the playoffs. Like they could put themselves in a really bad situation if they don't push for the 1 seed, and then they are sitting in week 18 and they have to play their starters to try to push for it. Because even if they lose the next 2, they still got to play things out in case the Bills, somehow drop one against the Patriots, right? So like you kind of put yourself in a really tough spot if you aren't just trying to win out, if you aren't just going and trying to win these games, because you could be playing week 18 to try to see if Buffalo somehow drops it, and then if they don't drop it, you're no rest straight into the postseason, and you don't have a bye. So like you're in a really tough spot if you're the Chiefs. So like I get the allure of just pushing for it, going for it, and trying to secure this thing. And if you can, I feel pretty good if the Chiefs can split the 2 games between Saturday and Thursday. I feel very good about their outlook when it comes to being the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, probably. That feeling good about being the 1 seed. Yes. Like I said, I think the goal really is to get the 2 weeks off. I don't think they're trying to have everybody play through week 18. So I think they're trying to go as far as they can to win these next 2, which happen to be against the Houston Texans, we're about to talk about, then the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in that, it goes, hey, they probably have a lot better chance to win with Patrick Mahomes playing football and not just, and not Carson Wentz. I don't want to say just, but and not Carson Wentz. So yeah, if he feels like he can play, he'll play. He looked like he was in pain coming off the field. Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to go, full Twitter doctor on this. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word at face value.
Good.
I've seen Patrick Mahomes look a lot more injured after certain stuff coming off the field and still come back in a game or come back a week later and be okay. I don't want to say that it hurt. I don't want to say it's not a mild high ankle sprain or anything like that. Just from stuff we have seen, I don't think that did not look like an injury or the body language of a guy who was not about to come back in that football game if they needed him, or of a guy that I legitimately thought was going to sit this game out. So I am not overly surprised that it seems like we're trending towards him at least giving it a go Saturday morning, during warm-ups, seeing how everything goes to see how it fits. And, real quick, we do have some mildly breaking news here. I have it on good authority that Craig Stout, the great one himself, was on Amateur Hour this week. It will be on the next Amateur Hour podcast that is going up, I believe, tomorrow, Tuck. Hopefully I get confirmation on that, of when it's going up there. But Craig is okay. He's doing well.
It's already out.
It's already out. You guys can already go check out. Not right now. You're going to watch us first. But after this, you can go listen to Amateur Hour and catch Craig Stout there. So that said, I also want to say the other reason that I think Patrick Mahomes might play, Kent.
Why?
I think Hollywood Brown's playing. I think they're getting Hollywood Brown out there, and I think they want as many reps as they can with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to Hollywood Brown in live game action.
I wonder if there's not like a little bit of reverse gamesmanship where it's like maybe they're overplaying the injury a little bit. What if they're doing that? What if they're just overplaying it just a little bit?
I don't release a picture of a stump soon.
Something, but Chiefs will be getting Hollywood Brown. It seems like they probably will be seeing Hollywood Brown in his first game action. I think it's a slightly ahead of schedule, right? I think it's a little bit ahead of schedule if you're looking at, some of the projections were saying, hey, it's like a week 16, week 17, maybe by the playoffs kind of thing, where some of the early timetables. And here we are just a little bit early. It seems like Chiefs will be getting him for this game against the Houston Texans. And I mean, that's really exciting because, there was a lot of buzz around Hollywood Brown, before the injury, kind of seeming to be one of the top targets for Patrick Mahomes. It seemed like the chemistry was developing very nicely between these two. I mean, I think he gets the first pass of the preseason with Patrick Mahomes in that game, and we all know what happened afterwards. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see the outlook for Hollywood Brown. Do you think he's going to be a package player in this game? Do you think he gets like a pretty good workload? Like, what do you think it looks like for Hollywood in this first game?
Yeah. I mean, they probably work him back in, right? I don't know if it'll necessarily be as slowly as a veteran wide receiver, say DeAndre Hopkins added in the middle of the year. He did spend the entire camp, the entire, getting ready for the season with the Chiefs. So the playbook should be something he is relatively familiar with. It's going to be entirely about getting like his conditioning under him and finding that rhythm. And hey, here's the thing kind of about like, I guess, again, not a doctor, don't know everything about, this injury here. It doesn't seem like this is something over the past few months or past month or two where he shouldn't be able to be keeping up with his conditioning in some fashion, right? It's an upper body injury, specifically to his shoulder. You are going to be limited in stuff you can do, but you should be able to keep your conditioning up pretty well. So you would think he would be as close to football shape as you would kind of expect a guy possibly could be coming back from injury. So yeah, it'll still be a package player, I think, this first game, but I don't think it's going to be a small amount. I don't think you're going to see him go out there for 12 reps and just call it a day, especially because that's not the kind of player he is. I think people see Hollywood Brown's size and they remember his speed and stuff coming out of college, and they think that he is a gadget type wide receiver. That's not his game at all. He's a pretty pedestrian in terms of creating yards after the catch, especially if it requires making a guy miss. He's not a jet sweep and go kind of guy. It's not taking short passes and taking the distance. He is more of a separator in the short to intermediate areas. He does have long speed to stretch the field as well. So I think you are going to see him do real wide receiver things, probably the majority of the time from the outside, maybe some in the slot, but he is not going to be a guy I think you just see come in for these special Andy Reid type plays, but rather a guy that they are going to work in as much as he feels comfortable here in this first game, I guess, with the Chiefs. You
talked a little about him playing outside. What area of the field do you think the biggest impact is made when Hollywood Brown sees the field? Where does he make the biggest impact on the field? Deep, short, intermediate, outside, inside? What is it?
Intermediate. Very specifically, I kind of wrote about it a little bit on the KCSN Substack this past week, kcsn.substack.com. Xavier Worthy's the Chiefs' entire vertical passing game, which has been bad, but he's been their entire vertical passing game. He is carrying over half of their target share on vertical passes. I don't think that was ever the plan. Was it the plan for him to kind of be a deep threat specialist? Probably, but I don't think they ever anticipated throwing over half their deep shots to him. So just having Hollywood Brown on the field, a second receiver who does provide some level of speed threat, who could garner a deep shot or two, it might actually open up the field for Worthy a little bit more down the field. And then I would expect Hollywood Brown to do the majority of his damage to be that kind of intermediate receiver. They could use him in some Rashee Rice type roles. That's not what he's best at, but he can win quickly, right? That's the thing, is they don't have a receiver that gets open quick all the time. Worthy can on some routes, but again, he's still learning and refining his technique. Since Rashee Rice went out, they don't have a guy that gets open in the first 10 yards, quickly. It's Hopkins. It's all about space, and it's about getting leverage. Same thing with Kelsey. So with Hollywood Brown and that short to intermediate range, he might be able to get open early. You have him and Worthy creating space underneath. If he plays, I think that's where it'll manifest the majority of it, and not the yak, but just in terms of getting separation, creating space between the 0 and 20 yard mark.
You're gonna probably hear people asking, how do the Chiefs adjust their play calling to account for Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain? And the answer is probably going to be, for me, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to change all that much. I don't think they've changed all that much historically when Patrick Mahomes has had high ankle injuries. What I do think that they could try to do just in general is try, even independent of this, maybe try to incorporate the quick game a little bit more. You're going to have more weapons that you trust out on the field. You're going to have a little bit more speed. You might be able to, a little bit more vertical stretchability on the field with Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy on the field at the same time. So maybe you're getting a little bit more off and soft coverage. Maybe some of those outs and those hitch routes are a little bit more available to you. But trying to slow down the pass rush of the Houston Texans, I think, and maybe try to help that offensive line a little bit. I think those are two things that maybe see the Chiefs try to get the quick passing game involved a little bit more in this game, just to try to, serve multiple masters, honestly, in this situation.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Chiefs. The pass protection's been so poor, inconsistent all year that they've already thrown a lot at trying to make it work, right? They've already thrown a lot of chips. They've shuffled that left tackle spot around a ton. They've gone heavy play action while keeping extra blockers in. They've added double chips. They've added running back chips. They've done a bunch already to protect the offensive line. So if we're talking about how to protect a quarterback who might be less mobile than before, well, it's the same stuff they've already done. And I really don't know if it's in Andy Reid's playbook to necessarily do it a ton more often. Right? I don't know if it's a lot. If they is available to chip more, to keep more guys in. It's already way more than I think he feels like he wants to do or feels comfortable with. So it might not change a lot. The biggest thing I think you could see, though, is the Chiefs have made it a little bit of a point especially since acquiring DeAndre Hopkins, but these past, let's say month and a half, especially of trying to get some downfield shots, they've gone a lot more hard play action with the half boots, keeping an extra guy or two in to block so they can try to push the ball downfield. Maybe stuff like that goes away. Maybe you see less like true 5 and 7 step drop back concepts, and it's a lot more quick game than what we've been seeing lately. I do think the Chiefs have kind of shifted away from that as the years gone along, and they've realized they don't have as much space underneath as they thought they were going to start the season. You're not as effective with the quick game without Rashee Rice as you thought. So maybe you get back into some of that stuff that you started the year with, where it's a lot more slants, it's a lot more the RPOs and trying to get the ball out quick and just living with the, less than stellar yak that they've been getting this year. I guess like that's the big change I could see, is just reverting back to the offense that we saw the first 4-5 weeks of the season when they were still trying to figure some stuff out.
Who worries you the most on the Houston Texans defense, Maddie?
It's that pass rush. You already mentioned it, right? That pass rush is phenomenal. The Houston Texans defense across the board is really good. Now you're going up against a team that I believe, got a good pass rush off both sides. They have 2 guys that are coming at you at all times. They're going to give you some significant, difficult matchups that you have to deal with over and over again. And then like the coverage unit behind it without Jalen Petrie, I guess like that matters. Like they don't have that guy that's their chess piece on the back end, but they still have a very technically sound, well-coached secondary that's going to make things difficult. So you pair a good pass rush with a secondary that can play physical, that does play relatively sound. And like that leads to a lot of problems for a lot of teams. And it requires really good quarterback and wide receiver play usually to beat it. And like, that's where the Chiefs have been a little shaky right now.
And I think that's like, hey, it's a good thing Hollywood Brown is getting involved in this game. Hey, look, this is a DeAndre Hopkins opportunity here too, right? Because like this is a revenge quote unquote game against a team that drafted him. You've got the Houston Texans connection there. Chiefs have really limited his snap count. Do you think that we're gonna see more DeAndre Hopkins in this game than we have?
No.
Why?
I don't know what's going on there. It's very confusing to me. I don't think the MCL is a concern. I just think from the Chiefs' perspective, they're thinking, hey, maybe we don't run the one wide receiver we have that we feel like, we don't run the one wide receiver that we feel like is consistent for us and able to consistently do things into the ground. So hi Matt. And so, I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins like snap count's going to significantly jump up. Will it be maybe a little bit higher, especially earlier in the game than it was last week? Yeah, I'm tinfoil hat. I think that field condition maybe made them a little worried about a guy like Hopkins having to cut on an injured MCL and everything. So we will see how that plays out. I just don't expect him to all of a sudden hit, the snap percentage that he should.
I'm wondering a little bit if the Chiefs aren't treating this not necessarily like a playoff game, but like pretty close to one, where they want to win. They're rolling out their quarterback. They really need the rest to close the season out. Like they need the rest. They need to have that, advantage so that they can kind of heal up. They have the earliest bye, one of the earliest buys in the National Football League. I think it's been like a long time since a team with their bye has actually won the Super Bowl. And so like I think they're going for it, right? Like, and so like I just wonder if the snap counts of some of their star players, some of the receivers, some of these things might reflect that. And like, maybe they're putting more meat off. They're taking more meat off the bone in this game with the play calling and some of that kind of stuff, just because like this is a playoff team that they're going to see again, but they've got to take care of business, or could see again, but they got to take care of business. They got to take care of business in this short week. I just wonder if this is just a little bit more of an aggressive kind of approach for the Chiefs the next week.
And I think it helps from the Hopkins standpoint that you do get Hollywood Brown back for this game. So if you are saying DeAndre Hopkins returns to what his like general snap count has been, which is like just over 50%, you can bridge the gap of a large chunk of the rest of that with having Hollywood Brown out there as well. They're not 1-for-1 players at all. Don't get me wrong, but I just mean in terms of having a more reliable vet that has a little bit higher skill level than some of the other guys. So it feels like this is a week where they could maybe get by with, and those reps where DeAndre Hopkins isn't out there. However, I did see this too. I'm like, this is the one that really gets me. Why isn't Hopkins being used more in the red zone? I am not big. And sorry, that was from DJ here. I'm not big on saying that the Chiefs are like holding stuff back for the playoffs because I think they've been in nail biters. They've needed to put their best stuff out to win some of these games or like, at least not lose them. I do wonder if the DeAndre Hopkins red zone stuff has been taken away a little bit because you remember when they first got him, they were doing it a lot more, right? And they were getting him in that 4x1 stuff, giving him the two-way go against an off coverage guy. They were getting him working on these fades, corners, these kind of like choice routes across our back, option routes across the back line. Those have kind of disappeared a little bit, right? When they do use him in the red zone, it seems like it's been pretty much just, it's either a slant or it's a fade, and it's become a lot less common than it was. I do wonder if they have kind of back pocketed some of that stuff because they saw when they first got him that there's going to be success to be had there. So I did see that comment come through. I just want to say that is the one area that I do think that they might purposefully be holding back some of what Hopkins can do.
All right, let's move. You want to move on to players to watch? I'm ready to move on to players to watch.
I did want to say real quick, I think the second level and like up the middle of this Houston Texans defense is where they're a little vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're missing, they've got some guys injured. They got some guys suspended. They're not fully healthy through the linebacker and the safety area. So if there was a game to point to where Travis Kelce might have a pretty big impact, he's not my player to watch, but if there was a game to point to, this might be one. Hopkins working over the middle of the field, whoever it may be, just this defense is very good. I mean, the Texans defense is very, very good, but I do think they might be a little softer or not at full strength right down the spine on the second level and even on the back end. So that is something to watch to see if the Chiefs kind of try to flood the middle of the field rather than the sidelines, where I think you have a little bit more dangerous playmakers on the outside, kind of the numbers for the Texans.
Well, I think that could even be, especially just with the way the place, I don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to be my player to watch, but, you get Travis Kelce on a drag, and then you get, Juju on an option or an angle route or, a follow route. Whatever those kind of plays, like we've seen, like Juju Smith-Schuster have a lot of success in Kansas City. Like if you're going to play zone, which I think you're going to see some zone from the Houston Texans, if they're going to play zone, you're going to get some follow. You could get Juju Smith-Schuster operating in the middle of the field a little bit too. And so like that could be a chance for him to kind of make an impact in this game as well. Players to watch is brought to you by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN gets you the best available discount on your Chiefs tickets as you are trying to get into those games. Best available discount. KCSN. Promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. Maddie, who is your player to watch on offense?
Oh, let's go with Hollywood Brown. I don't think he's going to be talked about enough leading up to this game. Yeah, I'm shooting the shot a little bit here. I think he is going to play in this game. And everything kind of coming together, right? We talked a little bit about how DeAndre Hopkins' snap count maybe isn't as high as you want, and getting Hollywood Brown in there on the reps that he's not might make a difference. Talked a little bit about how Xavier Worthy's vertical, he's been the only vertical receiver they've really tried to get going. Hollywood Brown could help that. So not only is it just the impact that Hollywood Brown can have himself, but indirectly, I do think he might open some stuff up for some other guys. I think you might see the Chiefs get a little bit more reliable on the outside. Like Justin Watson's an awesome player to have on the team, does a lot of the dirty work. He plays a lot of reps that you just kind of look at and you're like, yeah, okay, he's out there. If you put Hollywood Brown in a lot of those spots, this offense might look way different. So I'm excited to see him and what I think is going to be his first action of the season for the Chiefs.
It's the tackles. I do this every week, and I think Jawan Taylor's been my player to watch for a month straight now. I'm going to continue to make him my player to watch, but I'm going to make all of them my player to watch. Whoever's lining up at tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs right now, sounds like it's going to be Joe Thuney and Jawan Taylor, because DJ Humphries is another did not participate on Wednesday's practice. I don't anticipate he's going to be available. That's just my guess. Thuney had admirable performance against Myles Garrett in that group. This is a big challenge with two talented pass rushers on both sides, on both bookends. Both tackles have to play at a high level. This team badly needs good tackle play, especially in a game where your quarterback is hobbled. They're going for this 1 seed. They are trying to get this thing locked up, and the tackles have to play better starting now. Has to start today, and it has to continue all the way till February if this team is going to win the Super Bowl. And I don't know.
Who do they play today?
I don't. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know it. You know what I mean. Anyways, it's the tackles. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Game preview edition of the KC Laboratory, hanging out here with Matthew Lane. I guess we'll call it Matter Days still.
That's right.
But Tucker doesn't have the graphic ready, so I'm still Ken. And that's okay. It's all good. We are going to move on to the defensive side of the football and talk about that a little bit. Hey, look, I think the Chiefs, you know what? I'll use it. The Chiefs fans had a good performance last week. Okay. They did. Had a good performance against the Cleveland Browns. The Houston Texans are coming off a very rough performance on offense.
Rough year.
Yeah, that's true. But especially against this Miami Dolphins team, I don't think the ascent of the Houston Texans offense was as realized as some people were anticipating. But there's still so much talent on that side of the ball, and you know there's still a lot to be worried about with that Texans offense, Patty.
Yes, there is, but if we want to sit here, we spent all year watching this Chiefs offense, and it's been okay. But we've been able to poke holes in it, the areas of it that, frustrate us. And then the areas of it where they make up for it, that kind of has kept them as this top 10 unit, right? The Texans don't have that. They just have the frustrations. They don't have the thing that keeps them in contention for being a top 10 offense. They just don't. They don't have it anywhere in there. And so, yeah, it's frustrating. Like, think about, as Chiefs fans, think about how frustrating it's been to watch this offense this year and feel like they're way underperforming their potential based on who their quarterback is and who some of the supporting cast members are. It's that times 5 for this Houston Texans team. And part of it, I do think, is the second year of CJ Stroud, the second year of Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, having teams with a year of tape to kind of figure out what they're doing, where they're winning, what's going on. But I also think a part of it is just like some guys aren't playing as well. I mean, their entire offensive line, bad, not been good this year. Penalties left and right. Nobody's playing particularly well on the offensive line. Outside of Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, I don't think you could say any of their skill position players, and I'm going to throw CJ Stroud into there, are playing great. I don't think it's all Stroud's fault. I don't think that Stroud is necessarily playing bad, but he looked a little reliant on Nico Collins to win. He looked, when that stretch when Nico Collins was out, CJ Stroud played some actively bad football. He's looked better with him, but still they're very reliant on Nico Collins kind of bailing them out of bad situations. That seems like what this offense is. And I think it's a lot harder to have a wide receiver consistently bail you out of bad situations than it is, let's say a quarterback named Patrick Mahomes bail you out of bad situations. So yeah, this Houston Texans offense was supposed to be the juggernaut of this team. Like, that was supposed to be what led them to the playoffs and really made them a Super Bowl contender. It hasn't been at that level on any level. I don't want to reuse the same word, but like, nothing about this offense has said, hey, we are a legitimate contender for the Super Bowl at any point in time.
And I think that was, what was supposed to be the reason that they were a contender was that offense. Like, that's why everybody was projecting things so well, because this offense looked a lot better last season. It looked like there's a lot more of a future and a hope and promise for this thing. That all being said, I'm still scared of what this team can present, right? Like, we've seen really good high level play out of CJ Stroud, and the weapons speak for themselves. Tank Dell, Nico Collins is a good group. Dalton Schultz is a good tight end. Joe Mixon, good running back. I know there's, the thing that's really one of the biggest things holding them back is definitely that offensive line has been really bad. And that's like one of the hopes. And the interior specifically too, like, I think has been struggling, which is good news for the Chiefs. Because you have the best interior defensive lineman in football, and you're really hoping that he can wreck that game. But there's definitely some concern, just for me personally, because of all of the, what we've seen little bits and pieces, of this skill group, playing at a really high level. And, it's the Chiefs have their hands. The Chiefs have their hands full. They definitely still have their hands full. And hey, look, the Texans are trying to peak at the right time. They're coming off an absolutely horrendous game, less than 200 yards of offense. Like, they were real bad. You talk about Nico Collins kind of saving them. He had 2 touchdown catches, but he had 4 catches for 17 yards in that game. Like, that's
that's the pathway for the Houston Texans team, like kind of having success against the Chiefs, right? Like Joe Mixon played good football when he was healthy early in the year, and that helped them when he was able to play, right? Like being able to rely on Joe Mixon to be kind of the curveball to the Nico Collins play. But going up against the Chiefs, I mean, their run defense, while maybe it slipped a smidge in this back half of the year, it's still been excellent. I don't think you're going into this game thinking, oh, wow, Joe Mixon and this offensive line are about to push around the Chiefs and have a bunch of success running the football. So it's probably going to be a lot of third and longs like it has been for the Texans all year long. And when you look at them, realistically, where they've won has been Nico Collins is running a dig somewhere. Nico Collins down the seam somewhere. CJ Stroud hits him because he's a good quarterback. Yeah, the Chiefs are going to be susceptible to that, right? And so if you tell me at the end of this game, Nico Collins went for 12 for 200 and 2 touchdowns, I'd be like, okay, I can see the pathway to how we get there, right? I can see the pathway. Not that it will happen, but I can see the pathway. Outside of that, it's really kind of hard to see how this Texas team's been playing, where they're really going to threaten this Chiefs team. They get a lot of penalties. They stay in third and long, which is an area Spags loves. This offensive line can't pick up a blitz or a stunt to save their life. That's, again, things that Spags loves. The run game is okay. Again, it's just a lot of stuff in this matchup really kind of slants the Chiefs' way. It's going to be about figuring out how you match up against Nico Collins so he doesn't beat you, and just making sure you stay ahead of the sticks, which they make relatively easy.
So what worries you the most for the Chiefs in this game?
Nico Collins. I mean, like, where's he going to line up? Where he lines up, Trey McDuffie's coming off of his best game of the year. There's no two ways around it. He played great. When they had him on Jerry Jeudy, he did a great job against him. He finally got the interception. He made some big tackles. Trey McDuffie came off his best game of the year. Nico Collins plays in the slot about 30% of the time, third of the time, and they will put him in there more frequently in matchups they like. So if Chamari Connor was able to play, they might put him in the slot more. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Trent McDuffie probably slides in the slot, or at least maybe follows Nico Collins. Like, that's got to be kind of the move they make. But do you feel great about Trent McDuffie on Nico Collins, the 6'3", 220-pound, monster that he is?
Not a great matchup.
That's not the great matchup. Now, that said, we also saw Trent McDuffie handle Jamar Chase fantastically when they were trying to move him around, right? So, I'm not saying he can't do it. It's just I can see an avenue in which Nico Collins, as a vertical receiver, can find success against Trent McDuffie no matter where he is. It's just a matter of how they match up against him. Do they follow him? Do they trust the other corners to follow him? Like, right, if you're going to follow a wide receiver around and you put 3 corners out there, can Trent McDuffie go outside if Nico lines outside? Do they trust Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams to go play in the slot? If they get the Chiefs into like a true nickel with Najee Johnson, Joshua Williams, and Trent McDuffie on the field, and then they line Nico Collins up outside, I feel like that's a free matchup against a Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams. I don't see how they alternate those guys to get McDuffie out there on him. So, yeah, I can see a pathway to where the Texans and Bobby Slowick come out and out-scheme the Chiefs, get Nico Collins a lot of good looks. They connect on them at all, and it works. Bobby Slowick just hasn't done a great job of that this year. So,
been a step back for old Bobby. It's been a step back for old Bobby. But like he wants to win in the middle of the field. He wants CJ, like you said, he wants CJ Stroud throwing those digs, to Nico Collins in the middle of the field. And like I feel like the Chiefs have done a pretty good job of taking some of those things away against some of these under center Shaney type offenses. These McVay type offenses, right? Where, I think the Chiefs have done a pretty good job of taking the middle of the field away. So, like if you can take that and eliminate that a little bit, that could go a long way in this too. Yeah, and I think you want to. I like the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs actively want to get it. Like I know where Nico lines up, blah 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 blah. I think the Chiefs want to get into those third and long situations and try to heat CJ Stroud up again. Like I do think that like challenge that interior offensive line, give them some problems to deal with because they've been struggling so much along the interior. Like the Chiefs, they're comfortable in that drop back game. I think against CJ Stroud.
Yeah, and like to Stroud's credit, right? Like he's been relatively good when he's blitzed. He's been relatively good under pressure. It's just he hasn't been like dominant like he was last year. It's just been relatively good. And so, yeah, you want to heat them up. And again, this Texans team will happily give you yardage. They will happily give away yards, whether it's offensive line penalties, whether it's sacks, whether it's negative plays. They will give the defense yards and put themselves in bad situations. I think that's a bad plan against the Steve Spagnuolo-led defense. We've seen that throughout we just saw it against the Cleveland Browns, right? Every time they kind of got themselves behind the sticks and in these little bit more dire situations early in the game, when it still felt like a competitive game, it was just, that's when a lot of the mistakes really started to pour on. So yeah, it's not going to be good, I think, for this offensive line. I think you do see another really good Chris Jones game. I think we've seen from Chris Jones throughout his career, when you have a carrot you can dangle, he plays really darn good, right? Like that's where he plays better and better each time. The carrot you're dangling right now is win the next 2, you get 2 weeks off. You get 2 games off. And for a guy that's already complained about his bye week and then his schedule, that seems like a pretty good carrot you're dangling out there. And then what'd you say about Chris Jones last week when maybe this carrot started to get dangled?
I don't remember.
You said Chris Jones played his best game of the year. You said Jones. You thought Chris Jones played his best game of the year.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about what did I say about the carrot specifically, and I was like, I have no idea. What did I say, Matthew?
That's fine.
I thought he played his best game of the year. I did. I think he was. Right. I think he was disciplined, and he was starting to look a lot more like playoff Chris. There you go.
I don't think that's a coincidence that's come during this stretch where they probably did have, like, teams obviously have a bunch of meetings throughout the weeks, right? I bet there was a team-wide meeting about what their goal and their plan is for the rest of the season. Win games X, Y, Z. This is what we're trying to do. This is our goal, to get week 18 off and then get the 1 seed and the bye. You tell them that, all of a sudden you get a little bit rejuvenated defense, a defense where guys are like playing maybe a little bit harder against a Browns team that was giving the ball away, but they looked like they were playing a smidge harder. And I do think, not starts with, but I do think Chris Jones maybe was a really good example, and not that of playing harder, but playing smarter. And like, hey, you give us your 100% these next 3 games, you get 2 weeks off. We will win if you do that for us. And I think you saw that. I bet you get that again. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's where George Karlaftis also had his best game of the season. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's where Charles Omenihu started to tee off. And again, part of that's this Cleveland Browns offensive line that we saw last week, but I think part of it is the plan. Part of it is the goal, and it starts defensively with what Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie do. Both played their best game. I wouldn't be surprised to see them stack on it in this particular game, again, with the same concept in mind and the fact that it's a decent matchup, at least for the defensive line again.
You got anything else on defense, Matty?
I don't think so. Linebackers been playing good the past, at least last week. I thought they played good. Continue that, right? That's going to be big. You look around the NFL, outside broken foot Fred Warner, there's not a lot of good linebacker play. Milano's coming back from an injury for the Bills. Hasn't looked great, when he's been back on the field. Roquan Smith's taken a step back this year. Like, linebacker play, generally speaking, across the board is relatively down, has been for years, but even more so this year. So the Chiefs, if you get last week's Nick Bolton, last week's Drew Tranquill, the Leo Chenal, and the right game script where he really comes alive, that Chiefs second level, the Chiefs second level on defense is a difference maker, right? Like, that is a little bit of a separator compared to the rest of the NFL. So just hopefully they keep building on that going into the playoffs, because that is something that had been a little bit of an issue earlier in the year.
All right, let's go to defensive players to watch, presented by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN gets you the best available discount available at ticketsforless.com. Maddie, player to watch. Who you got?
Oh man. Give me Brian Cook. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games. Even in his good and bad games, he's flashed on other sides. This isn't so much of him playing well. We talked a lot about Trent McDuffie in the slot, what they're going to do to handling Nico Collins. I think that is the biggest guy they have to look out for. It's a lot of him working vertical. What are some of the biggest plays we've seen the Chiefs give up vertically? It's been when Brian Cook has been isolated one-on-one with wide receivers. We've also seen him make plays, but teams are able to get the Chiefs and Spags with their best wide receivers or their best vertical wide receivers one-on-one with Brian Cook, because that's how match coverage plays out, because he's their predominant deep safety, so on and so forth. So in this game, does he get beat once deep by Nico? 0 times, 5 times? Like, what is it? Like, how often do they get that matchup, and how does it play out? I think that could dictate a lot of what happens in this game, because I do think this Texans team will hunt for some big plays, specifically in that matchup, and I think Cook will have to be ready for it. And if he can shut them down, that leaves the Texans kind of grasping at a lot of straws.
I'm going to go Charles Omenihu. I don't think it's a coincidence. The defensive line looks better with Charles Omenihu in the mix as well. So he's, I think he had a good performance last week against the Browns. And this is also a potential revenge game for him too, because he had to, he got traded by the Houston Texans within his rookie deal. I think he spent 3 years with the Texans and then got traded to San Francisco 49ers. So he got moved on from by the Houston Texans as well. So this is an opportunity for him to play against the team that drafted him back in the day. And he's a potential X factor, I think, is probably a fair statement, because the Chiefs really haven't been able to find steady, consistent edge rush from the players that were playing all season, and Charles Omenihu gives you the best upside and ability to do that. So if you get a good Charles Omenihu the rest of the year, get a good Charles Omenihu in this game, I think the Houston Texans are going to have some problems against the Chiefs. All right, game prediction time, Matthew. What we got?
Oh, I'm up. Okay. I think this Texans defense is pretty good. I think what they do well, a lot of man coverage, play really physical, get after the passer, doesn't align well for how the Chiefs have won. You can get them a little bit on the ground, especially because, like I said, the spine of that defense is a little weakened right now. So there is a chance that the Chiefs can stay ahead of the sticks, especially if they're trying to protect Patrick Mahomes on a hurt ankle. But that said, this is me also assuming Patrick Mahomes is playing. I don't know if I've made that clear. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is playing in this football game.
I'll tell you what, the line's starting to move towards the Chiefs even more. So it's -3.5 now for the Chiefs. I think they believe Patrick Mahomes is playing.
I don't even know if it was ever in question. I honestly don't even know if it was.
It might be a little,
I don't know.
Okay.
So I do think it's a tough matchup, though. And you look through the Texans, like their defense has consistently showed up in big games. You can't really find a game where their defense just got absolutely, blasted. I don't think the Chiefs' offense in its current state is the offense to do that. So if the Chiefs do move the ball, it'll be kind of what they do. They convert on third downs. They stay efficient. They matriculate the ball down the field. This Texans defense is good. I think they will get a handful of stops or a lot of stops throughout the process. Flip side, I just don't see it with this Texans offense this year. I think they are just Nico Collins going crazy is kind of what keeps them alive. Can he do that? Yes. Do I think the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo will let him? No. Give me the Chiefs winning this one. We are going to call it 20-16 and another close nail biter, but like predominantly defensive laden football game.
So when Patrick Mahomes has been hurt in previous years, you've seen this team go out with Matt Moore and beat the Minnesota Vikings, a good team at the time, with a backup quarterback. And like that game refocused the rest of the team to, kind of lock in, so that they can, help make up the slack for not having Patrick Mahomes. And Matt Moore did a great job in that game. Don't get me wrong. But I think that situation kind of galvanized and refocused that team. And having Patrick Mahomes on the field, but knowing that he's playing hurt and knowing that there was, some question about his status, I think galvanizes and refocuses this team a little differently, because like losses normally do that. Losses normally refocus a team. The Chiefs have had one loss in this season. They really, and this team has been through a lot over the last few years, but like, I think they see the carrot. I think they see the opportunity to be the 1 seed, in the AFC. I think they see, the need to play against a very difficult, challenging, playoff team that just won their division. It's got a hat and a t-shirt already. And see this as a big opportunity that they need to take care of in their own house, which is the last home game of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. So I think this team's going to lock in. I think they're going to be focused. I think they're going to play well. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to play well. I think the defense continues to put some good things together here. And I think Mahomes has a really solid game, and things look better with Hollywood Brown on the field. I think the offense starts finding a little bit of footing, not everything, but I think they put 24 points up on the Houston Texans and they win 24-20. And they're 1 win away from the 1 seed. And if they take care of business on Thursday against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Netflix, then they can get in an extended period of time for a team that desperately needs a break, that desperately needs a rest, especially with everything that they've been through over the last, 660, 70, whatever it is, plus days of being reigning Super Bowl champions. So I think the Chiefs win this game. And I think they win one more, and they wind up being the 1 seed. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
What a matter day.